how does one use that?
Call this meeting to order for the regular session of the Board of Supervisors for February 17th, 2026. Roll call, please.
Schwartz.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Kurtenbach.
Here.
Grant.
Here.
Leland.
Here. Would everyone please join us in a moment of silence as we reflect on our actions here today? Thank you. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 is the agenda received as proposed or as amended.
So second.
Seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, the agenda is received. Public comments. Is there anyone in the audience today that would like to speak during public comments on something that is not on today's agenda? Anyone online? All right, we'll move on to the presentation this morning. The Northeast Iowa Food Bank Campaign. Barb Prater.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Barb Prather, Northeast Iowa Food Bank. Thank you again for allowing me to come and speak and share about the ongoing partnership between Black Hawk County and the Northeast Iowa Food Bank. And I would like to thank you all for the support, especially this extra support you gave us last fall during the government shutdown. Those 2 weeks in November were like nothing that we'd ever seen before, even during COVID, and the extra support enabled us to access more food and distribute it out to people. At the Northeast Iowa Food Bank, we believe food is a basic human right. Assistance should be delivered with dignity, compassion, and efficiency. Our work is about more than food. It's about stability for families and strengthening for our community. In Northeast Iowa, over 45,000 people are food insecure. And from last November alone, we distributed 462,000 meals in Black Hawk County, which was a 9% increase over the previous November of 2024. Through all of our programs, the Northeast Iowa Food Bank served 42,851 duplicated individuals in Black Hawk County that month. The Black Hawk County Pantry, the Cedar Valley Food Pantry, which serves Black Hawk County residents, is the front door of our work. People see it every day when they drive by the food bank on Lafayette. On average, outside of the government shutdown, we average about 1,082 households each week, with peaking services at 1,446 households every week. Our current trends, we anticipate up to 1,600 households in a single week. Additional indicators of the rising need. Pantries in Black Hawk County, using our online system to track people, served 40% more duplicated households in last November over October. And our households served using the same system was up as well in Black Hawk County. Of that, 33% of them included children. And this just gives you a little idea of the number of food insecure people in Black Hawk County alone. And last year we distributed 4.2 million meals just to Black Hawk County. So our capacity campaign is about making sure people have access to food for the long term and why it matters now. We're seeing sharp increases in need and a surge in the first-time pantry visits. We must be prepared for the future, and this campaign and this renovation does that. During just the recent government shutdown, There was a 56% increase in households served in November compared to October, 58% increase in individuals served in November compared to October, and 108% increase in households seeking pantry services for the first time. And this is system-wide. We'll share a little bit about our layout that you also have in front of you. This layout shows what will be renovated and what is added on and what is new. If it's orange, it's remodeled. If it's yellow, it's an addition. And if it's white, it's staying the same. All are focused on ensuring that we can access the food that we need to provide to the community for the long term. At the same time, we can only be assured that our food sources are going to change. In 1981, when the food pantry and the food bank started, we were getting predominantly non-perishable food items. Now 62% of the food that we handle is perishable. This means as manufacturers and distributors continue to streamline operations and food donations change, they become steadily perishable. So we've got to adapt and ensure that we have the facility to take in different food donations so we can continue to feed our community for the long term. The food bank must adapt and change to this in order to meet the need. In order to do this and to make sure that food is not thrown away and to increase the supply, we must expand our capacity, which is what the campaign is about. Our pantry numbers alone show this. In the last 13 years since we moved in to this facility, the pantry was serving 1,500 families a month in 2013. It's now over 4,500 families a month. We must change and adapt to meet that need. Our volunteer space is inadequate, and we need to remodel our kitchen and expand our clean room to be able to ensure that we're accessing the right foods to ensure that we're feeding our communities and meeting people where they're at. So what is my ask of you today? Today, the food bank is requesting $1 million investment from Black Hawk County to support our capacity campaign. A commitment from the county where we are located would send a clear message that Black Hawk County stands together for everyone, especially as more families face unexpected hardships, including job loss, illness or injury, rising costs and inflation, and unexpected expenses. We've already received $1 million gifts from both Black Hawk County Gaming, Otto Schweitz Foundation, a donation of $675,000 from John Deere Foundation. The Van G. Miller Family Charitable Foundation has pledged $400,000. The Gallagher Family Foundation has pledged $300,000. The McElroy Trust has pledged $250,000, and the Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa has committed $200,000. We have other asks out, and we continue to raise, and the board is exploring new market tax credits to help us close the gap. Our total budget just for the renovation is $14 million, and to date we've raised almost $8 million. For your recognition, we would propose naming our new volunteer space, which is Section B, where thousands of volunteers come in on an annual basis to help us meet the needs and repack food to meet the needs of people in Black Hawk County. Why does this matter? Last year we welcomed 13,000 volunteers. Every volunteer who enters that space will see their county's leadership alongside them. It will be a visible, lasting reminder that we are working together to fight food insecurity in Black Hawk County. Since the beginning of the food bank, you have supported our work. You've been there when we've needed you most, and as we move forward, please help us to continue to ensure that in the future we can adapt to the needs of people when the next disaster strikes or the everyday disaster of food insecurity. We would appreciate your consideration and your leadership to help us meet the rising demand, strengthen our infrastructure, and to ensure families in Black Hawk County and beyond can access food in a way that is efficient, consistent, and respectful. On behalf of the food bank, thank you for this opportunity, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I was just gonna, and these are just kind of general ones, just for my own information. As far as the square footage,
The current building is about 45,000 square feet. I believe we're adding another 26,000 square feet. Much of it, a lot of it is the food pantry, the new dock, which will have an additional loading dock, expanded kitchen, an expanded cooler freezer, so we'll be doubling the size of the amount of food. A lot of times, if our cooler right now is full, we can't take more food in, and so this will help us be able to do this. But we also want to make sure that the cooler space is about moving food, not storing food, but you still don't want food to end up in the landfill and not safe. So that, and then the kitchen will be renovated and will become bigger. The clean room, which now holds about 15 volunteers comfortably, will hold about 30 volunteers comfortably. But that's where we're getting a lot of totes in. It's a licensed processing room, so we can process food safely. And then the volunteer space will take things out of the warehouse so we can put boxes and sort food and all of that kind of thing in
I
space.
assumed there was some mix of, like, say, square footage
Yep,
and the construction, but also
yep.
equipment and that.
Yep, there's equipment. A lot of it's equipment, a lot of it's construction.
And then the types of products, you said the perishables, the things that you're turning away, what have been some?
So an example might be if our cooler is full and a rejected load comes from Target, if we can't take it, we'll find another food bank in the state of Iowa that can take it. So it isn't thrown away. The other thing is, we're at the mercy of donors a lot of times, and so you can't plan what your inventory is always like. And we want to make sure that we do have the space to take everything that we're offered.
Congratulations so far on the success of the campaign.
For 8, you said 8 million.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Barb, first, thank you for letting me in for the tour a week or two ago to see the operations. So it was impressive to see the fluidity going on in there. Obviously the need exists, and I think you guys are doing great things. And I even shed a couple tears, I think, when we were in the pantry. So just seeing the struggles that people endure. Of the pledges that you mentioned, does that fill the gap for was that of the $8 million that's been achieved so far, or is that that $6 million gap that's?
We still have a $6 million gap that we need to raise.
Okay.
And the money that I'm requesting from the county, as well as others, the new market tax credits, other funders that we have proposals out to, individual donors, that will help fill we need to get to 14 million to pay for the whole thing. So our goal is sooner rather than later to get that pledged. But you have to ask, and everybody's on a different timetable. So you're juggling that as well.
Of the 16 counties that are served, any idea what the contributions are going to be? Anything committed from the other 15?
So from the county budgets, those counties usually support their local pantries. And when they support their local pantries, when people access food from us, there's a shared maintenance fee that's paid. And so we've tended not to go after funding from those other counties. It's been more state level or federal dollars that we go for, as well as regional donors as well that we go after versus the counties itself. I'm not opposed to it, we can ask, but they tend to focus on their local pantry.
Right.
And we have great partnerships with all of those pantries.
Okay. Would you be able to estimate the likelihood of them pitching in?
If you don't ask, you don't get,
Right.
so there's a possibility that they could, yes.
Okay.
And if that's something we want to work on together, I'm happy to do that.
The cities within the county so far of Black Hawk?
Not yet. We have a proposal for community development block grant in with the city of Waterloo right now, and we have not asked the city of Cedar Falls yet. Or Hudson, or LaPorte City.
All right, and then the last thing I have, well, one of the things that we discussed when I was down there was everything essentially is paid for. I just want people to be aware, or make sure I'm understanding this correctly too, on a construction loan of some sort right now, right? And so what this would do is just help to pay that off, so that way you guys are free and clear of the debt, right?
Correct, yes. Our goal is to get it paid, get enough pledges by the end of the year to have it paid off by 2029.
Okay.
And we do have a construction loan. That's part of the reason that the board is looking at new market tax credits as well.
So as far as construction starting, that can be any date or, or something?
It started.
Some of these started.
Yeah, it started.
Not the majors.
Yeah, we have a $2 million state matching grant that needs to be matched sooner rather than later, and it's an ARPA grant. And so we're working on that to get that matched. And that is a 1 to 5 match.
No, that's all I had, thank you.
It's come a long way from the days I remember at the old building.
Yeah,
Long, long ways.
we won't talk about the old building. I'm laughing at Karen because Karen worked for me in the old building and the new building. Unfortunately, food insecurity is still here and we have to adapt to meet the need. And the way you have to do that is make sure that you can take the food to meet that need. And so we have a really strong food sourcing plan that really touches a lot of donors in this area.
Michelle, this would obviously be coming out of reserves, I'm assuming,
We don't have a way to tax for it
right?
unless that'd be drastic measures to our operating budget.
Are the people doing multiple year pledges type things?
Yes,
too, you know,
yes.
instead of-
Yeah, we are taking multiple year pledges. So that might be a way as well.
And when you say block grants with the cities of Waterloo, you mentioned?
Yeah, we asked for $50,000.
And are planning to ask the cities as well, or just?
Yes, yeah.
Barb, this is Tavis, and I apologize if you can hear Bluey in the background. I'm on emergency dad duty, and you gotta occupy how you can. Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to just chime in. Obviously, with the federal response dollars that we, along with the city of Waterloo and Cedar Falls, did that sort of matching trifecta to try to leverage some private dollars. I wonder if that might be an opportunity to approach the same hurdle with that same formula, where we try to have a real conversation of what mutual support looks like, as opposed to one entity standing so far. $1 million from the county and 50,000 obviously from the city is there's a disparity there. And so I've certainly welcome the opportunity, I think, and I'm sure other board members as well, to engage that conversation so that we're having that chat with multiple legs of government at the same time, and all moving forward with a way that we feel comfortable in.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm willing to work on it however we can to make it happen.
Do a little exploring.
Yep.
You were gonna follow up, or at least we'd stay in touch with you.
Yeah.
too.
I think given our history, like, the county can be kind of the leadership of that kind of effort of motivating the others to step up the way that we have in the past, the way that we hopefully will on this project.
Who would be the point would it be Tavis, since he's our liaison, or would it be you, Linda? How do you want to go forward?
And then I'll make sure to disseminate the information out with how you guys.
Okay. Okay.
So that we all get the information at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll put something together and I'll get it back to you.
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank
yep,
you.
thank you,
Thank very
appreciate it.
much. Appreciate that and everything you do. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, claims and payments. This is a resolution that the Board of Supervisors approve expenditures and that the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue payments against the various settlement of such claims as allowed.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Weaver.
Good morning, Board. Our total bill payment today is, on the right, $674,700.23, and 60/40 fund is $3,559.83. We do have a couple of significant payments today. Paying Blackhawk County Sieges their second half operating expenses. That amount is $88,211.73. We're making another payment to Peters Construction for the public health renovations, $127,304.55. We're making our annual payment to the state of Iowa for the Juvenile Indigent Defense Fund. It's hard to say fast. That amount is $205,208. I believe that's most of the large or unusual payments we have today. Everything appears to be in order.
Michelle, on the, I asked you about the Indigent Defense Fund. After thinking about, has that gone up much in the last couple of years? It's been pretty steady, the same amount.
It's required to be adjusted by the CPI. That's all set in state code, so it does rise by a small amount.
So we're basically told what we're gonna pay then.
We absolutely are told what we're gonna pay,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Michelle? Please answer as your name is called.
Kurttenbach,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 5, receive project updates from department heads and elected officials.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, engineer. Brief update on the road conditions. The gravel roads are pretty sloppy this week just due to the warmer temperatures we've been having, but the paved roads are fine. I wanted to give you an update on our competitive highway bridge program because the DOT recently updated the counties and the cities, all the agencies that are involved, and they are basically, the DOT is saying they still have not heard back from the federal government. We do have a tracking number assigned to us for this grant. The DOT is managing the grant for us. So they are hopeful that it continues to move forward. And just a reminder, there are about 30 bridges in this one grant. Our bridge is the bridge on Eagle Road, and we are tied with a bridge from Buchanan County. So we're hopeful to find something out about that here before the end of the fiscal year possible. I will keep you updated. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other updates? Anyone online with an update? We'll move ahead. Minutes approved for February 10th, 2026.
So.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Later this morning, we have a hearing for a bid opening on the fiscal year 26 pavement margins. Item 8 is a consent agenda. The following items are acted upon by a single resolution without discussion unless someone wishes to pull an item for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Please answer your name.
Grant,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Kurttenbach,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 9, other business. This is a discussion with possible board action on the boardroom audiovisual rework. Mr. Yu is going to update us on that project.
Good morning, Board. Al, Yu, IT Director. So it's been a while since we've talked about the AV system. I think we are still struggling with kind of hearing folks, and I think that's going to remain that way until the system is basically kind of reverted back to the gooseneck mics. So Marco sent a quote a long time ago. I think the quote was roughly just a little more than $12,000. What that entailed was removing the ceiling tile mic and then placing the gooseneck mics that used to be on the desks back on. And that will help with the echoing. So the problem with the current system is it was never really meant for a room this small. And so because of the different zones of how the audio comes out from when it picks up to the mic and goes out, it creates kind of an echo. And we've struggled, we've all heard it. So overall it hasn't been echoing, but because that, it's also the trade-off is some voices are hard to hear. So I guess just kind of seeing what the board's thought on the potential of moving back to the way it sort of was. I don't have a recommendation. I just want everyone to be able to hear each other. Or we build a bigger conference room. And then the existing system should work just fine.
Yeah.
So we'll just extend this way, right?
I don't know, it's unfortunate we put the system in, as we all know, and had great expectations for it. To go back to gooseneck and that type of thing doesn't seem the best route either, but I'm open to suggestions because I know how difficult it is. And I said, some of the folks we know were not coming to meetings and going on Zoom so they could hear better, and yet that didn't make it really well received in the room too. So that was an issue, and I just thought we were needing to get something done, so it's better at least I think for everybody, but the participants in the room particularly need to be able to hear. And I just, like I say, the gooseneck system worked fine with this gooseneck system, but this was all done to improve, and I just hate to see us go backwards on that, but if that's what we think has to happen.
I would agree. I don't know if there's any way to fix the existing one without creating more echo. So if we amplify the voice, it's going to create that echo that we did not care for before. So, I mean, the goosenecks will work, but we're stripping everything out and going back to the way it was. I mean, we do have some upgrades in place, so the DVR is better. So I mean, we do have a core system that is in place, but I'm not an AV expert, but to me, it's kind of where we're at. It's either it could be a combination of goosenecks, and then essentially the supervisors have lapel mics. If you guys want to go with that option, that's a possibility. We did talk about the possibility maybe doing a combination of goosenecks, and maybe keeping that ceiling tile mic and moving it back, but the engineer said it would still create the exact same echo loop. So really don't have a lot of choices.
So we don't think a different vendor or different expertise or anything like that could offer any other solutions?
We certainly could, yeah. I'm not opposed to that. Certainly look at another vendor and see what their opinion is.
I mean, my expertise is no, we know that, so it's like, but it's just,
Yeah.
I hate to rip out a system too that we had such high expectations for and spent the money for, and
Exactly.
but it needs to do what we needed to do as well.
Is there any recourse, Al? I mean, we trusted the people that engineer this correctly and it's not working what we wanted. Do we have any recourse or warranty period or anything that we can go back yet?
We might be out of a warranty period, but I don't think it would hurt to maybe go back to the vendor and just see if they would potentially make it right. In my opinion, you know, I'm not an AV expert, so when we bring on this company to assess the location, assess the room, we trust them to give us the right equipment that will make it work in the size, and clearly that was not done correctly, in my opinion. So, and I did hear an engineer kind of confirm that as well, so that it was not meant for a room this size. So I'm not opposed to maybe pushing back a little bit. I'm not sure where that would land. Maybe they, you know, in my opinion, like the scenario like that is maybe they'll pay for the professional services to revert back and say goosenecks if that's the route we want to go, and then maybe we're just on the hook for the actual pieces of hardware. That's a potential outcome of that, but also not opposed to looking at another vendor just to get another opinion.
So, so that I'm correct, we understand this though, that was never relayed to us, that it wouldn't, that there were those precautions about the size of the room.
Correct. I never received that unless you guys have heard it. I've never heard that.
I just wanted to make sure, we didn't say, yeah, go ahead, and we'll just try it, so.
Yep.
Okay.
When
I
was
think
this?
so.
When's the date of the installation?
Oh, it's been a while.
Seemed like forever.
You remember when we put the new system
It's
in?
probably been about 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I don't I don't think they'll go back on any of that. I mean, that kind of, the job is done, but maybe to make it right, you know, it's a possibility. So, I mean, it couldn't hurt to reach out.
Well, I don't know what the board's thoughts are, but to me, I'm for exploring a little bit more information on all ends. I think them as well as others, just to see if there is something before you start ripping things out and putting in old systems.
Yeah.
Or trying to reinvent old systems. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it'd be helpful for me, like just a list of what the 12,000 includes that we're getting.
Sure, I have the quote, I can provide that to you. It'll probably need to refreshed if it's something that we do move forward with, but it's a little dated, but it has a breakdown of everything that's on there. If I remember right, it's kind of split 50-50 between hardware and professional services, but I'll provide that to the board.
I mean, all my experience is in like live sound for band and like theater settings, so I know enough to be dangerous, and this just seems like a ripoff. But for me, coming from that world, that's just my opinion of most of the sound systems that have been put in anywhere in the county, like with these places. Like over-engineer, like it's not that complicated.
Al, what happened to the goosenecks that we used to have?
We have them in storage,
Okay,
so
so
they're still viable. I think on the quote, we're just buying one more extra one because one of them was bad. So we can review some of that old equipment.
So then bring me up to speed, what was the background, because obviously I was not here when this all happened. Why did they do the switch to this system here initially?
Well, the gooseneck, the problem with the goosenecks is you have to speak into them. So if you don't speak into them, then your voice is also not amplified clearly. The problem with this new system is this mic in the middle captures all the voice. The problem is they create different zones so if you say something, your voice doesn't come back to you on that side, it only comes to the other 3 zones. And the problem is that those zones are too close to each other and it creates kind of an echo. And so it doesn't amplify the voice. Whereas the old system, it didn't have that issue because it didn't have these focal zones that it has to amplify to. That's the best explanation I have for the old versus the new. So the hope was to have a nice, easy system that everyone could just hear, don't think about it, and we almost had that.
Yeah, never thought about this room not being the size to
Yeah.
accommodate though, because I've seen those owls, or whatever they call them, used everywhere.
Yeah, I think if this room was the size of the VA multi-purpose room, then it would be the right size for the system. Or maybe even the basement conference room, maybe a little bit bigger, but yeah.
Is
The zones are
this
too close to each
potentially
other.
usable somewhere else?
I'm sorry, what was
Is
that?
this system potentially usable somewhere else?
Um,
Is that just-
So I did have a thought, because the VA actually doesn't have a mic in the ceiling. So Yolando has to hand a mic, I believe, to folks for them to speak. It would be, if we did do something in here, we could, in theory, repurpose that mic to VA and then have CTI maybe just professionally install it and integrate with that system, and that would certainly be a benefit over there and be a perfect fit for that room. For here, yeah, I'm open to suggestions. We'll certainly look at everything you guys would like us to
How
do.
long would it take you to put together, like, get the information out to us that Chris asked for too, of what's the specifics are, but then to kind of explore possibly another vendor, but also Marco, I guess, to get back with them? What do you think is realistic?
Shouldn't be too hard. I can send the last quote out to you here shortly. I'll reach out to Marco and I guess my question is, do you want that request to come from me or do you want it to come from the board directly to Marco?
Quite frankly, it come from the board, because I feel like we got sold a herring.
So, yeah, so maybe, that, and then I can certainly inquire with other vendors just to see, I'm sure there's plenty of players in the game that would be happy to look at this and just ask them to be really honest about, the size and what you would recommend for a room this size. So,
You draft a letter and send it to the board. We'll go from there.
Yeah.
Work together.
Sure. Certainly do that.
One last thing for me. With the initial consult, did you or whoever was involved in that project, did you guys go out and look for reference jobs that they've done before similar to this?
I believe we did, right, with Marco. I mean, we had four bids? We had an RFP, so we had 4 bidders.
I was thinking we had 3, but
Three?
yeah.
So,
And then of Marco though, like the clients that they've had, to make sure that they had positive experiences.
yeah, I mean, I think we did the background check, we checked with the references, and I think it turned out okay.
Typically we do, I'd be surprised if we didn't.
Yeah.
It's been a few years ago, but.
Okay.
Well, I'd hope they'd work with us or be willing to try, to resolve it too.
Any other questions I can answer for you guys?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item B, which at 9:35 is the hearing bid opening for fiscal year 26 pavement markings. Is there a motion to receive and place on file proof of publication in the January 31, 2026 Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Item number 2, motion to close the hearing after oral and written comments are received.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any written comments?
We received 4 bids, 2 of them are online. We will start with the online bids.
The engineer's estimate.
I'm sorry.
You want to
Yes, the engineer's estimate was $185,867.53. And the first bid is from Vogel Traffic Services Incorporated, $189,299.20, and that's on the screen up here. And then the second bid comes from Farner Asphalt Sealers LLC, $112,977.15. And we have 2 more paper bids. Advanced Traffic Control Incorporated, Fairfax, Iowa. Their bid is $199,109.58. 199,109.58. And they have submitted their bid bond. And the last bid, the 4th bid, comes from Iowa Plain Signing, Slater, Iowa, $177,471.52, 177,471.52. They've also submitted a bid bond, as have the online bidders.
EPA made a motion to close the hearing after the oral and written were received. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item number 3, bids to be received, opened and read. We did that. And item 4, motion that the Board of Supervisors review and place on file the bids to allow time to review said bids as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving on to item 10, the work session, discussion and consideration of all aspects of the fiscal year 27 Blackhawk County budget. You wanna start with review, Michelle, or however you have that? You want to-
Al, you wanna
Did you have one listed?
hit that magic button for me, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I thought we might just start out with a quick review of our schedule, because we haven't talked about this for a bit. But we do have deadlines coming up, so we do need to work within them. We're required to have our proposed property tax levy uploaded to the Department of Management by March 5th. And that is the highest tax rate you can have. You can come down after that, you cannot go up after that. Kind of similar to our maximum levy hearing that we used to have. We cannot have that first hearing though until a certain amount of time after March 5th. They want the taxpayers to actually receive those notices in the mail, those magic mailers we talked about before we have that first hearing. So the auditor's office has a few days in there to calculate the information for all the zillions of taxing bodies in the county and mail them out before we can have that hearing. So probably the earliest we could have that hearing is March 24th. So if we're ready to, I've kind of put that on here, but that's up to us. We do need to have our final topside decisions made, I would hope by February 26th, so that we're ready to go well ahead of the March 5th deadline.
You mean, when you say top side, you mean max?
Yes.
For the max?
Yep. That's what I mean, yep. And if we can stick to that schedule and have that first hearing March 24th, then we have to publish again after that. That has to be in the paper again for another 10 days. And it takes about a week at least to get the paper to publish it. So probably our budget adoption hearing would have to be around April 14th. And I have suggested topics on there for the dates in between, but that all varies just depending on what questions you have or what topics you want to discuss more. Nothing new that I would be projecting at this time. It would all be based on decisions you make as we go through this process.
And then you have so far, like, and we've talked about that we've always had, there are sessions on Tuesdays and that's worked up to date, but it looks like then there's maybe an opportunity or something we might have to consider for.
Yeah, since it is the 17th, we only have this week and next week. I did put in a potential of next Thursday. It doesn't have to be on a Thursday, you know, but just if you're not ready to, you know, to make those choices, then I think we might want to schedule another session. And it could be this week too. That's completely.
So we kind of look and see where we are, where we feel we are after today, and then knowing we have next Tuesday and need to decide then if we make headway or we need another day.
Yep.
We'll discuss what day that it needs to be, what day works for everybody, for that to be a possibility that's not just Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. That's time to start thinking about that scheduling, I think. So maybe, I don't know how you want to approach that, but there's dates people can't meet, maybe we want to get those blocked off.
I'd be willing to do next Wednesday.
That's when you would want to do it?
I'm willing.
Like morning?
Yeah, whenever, anytime.
That would be 23rd, I believe. Are you assuming at 9?
No.
25th.
No, he said the 23rd, next week.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't lose one fast.
Yeah, I was looking at the 24th, I apologize.
No, that's all right.
26th.
You said AM or PM?
Either or.
It's gonna have to be AM for me.
Maybe 10 a.m. The Board of Health at work, sometimes that goes past 9.
Davis, what are your thoughts?
I can do 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. I know I've got to be done. I can't do the afternoon, but the morning is pretty open.
Okay. So it sounds like then, like the morning of that 25th, at maybe 10-ish, like you said, if that works for everybody.
Perfect.
We need it. Thank you. Does that work for you, Michelle?
Just thought maybe I should check that when he mentioned the health department. Yeah, I think that's fine. Right. We'll see how today goes and
Yeah.
next Tuesday and
Yep. Thank you all, that was quick.
I had a couple questions about things on the property tax asking summary, and it made me realize I maybe went through this a little too quickly last week. So that should be in your packets, and thought we would walk through it in a little more detail. I'm not going to, at this point, walk through departments unless one of you requests it, because you have seen the details of each line item that's being presented from each department. This is what they've already presented to you. But on page 2, there are some things that we haven't necessarily discussed. The turnover pool, if you will, that is on here. And to explain how that works, if you look at that row, you can see that I have a subtraction in the tax askings column there. So what we're doing is we are just reducing the amount we're taxing our citizens by $1 million, based on the assumption that we will have vacant positions that are not eaten up by overtime, or that departments don't then use to spend on other things, that's just going to be not needed in their budgets. And we are doing that instead of applying. In the past, I've tried all kinds of things. We've done, putting in a couple months delay before people replace a position if someone leaves, and just tried to do lots of things to account for that turnover, because we know there are gaps. We know it's not easy to replace people, so typically there's some savings there. But I can't tell you necessarily which department is going to have those savings. And this method allows all the departments to have 100% of their personnel budgeted. And so that's what we decided to try here. And I will say, probably the only reason I was comfortable using this technique is because we have healthy reserves. If we did not, I would really be preferring that the board reduce departmental budgets. Because at the end of the year, we have to have a way to have paid everybody. So if we didn't budget for it in the current year, we have to have it sitting in the bank. So that was the theory behind why we did that. The other things that are on here, I did, it's labeled initial draft, I did transfer the amounts to capital only for equipment that departments have requested in the 5-year plan. So that's also not drawing any tax askings. We're using reserves for that because we don't have enough capacity to get that out of our current year taxing. So we have to take it out of reserves. We cannot bond for it any longer. There's just no other way to get necessary equipment other than to use reserves. So that is just 1 year, that's on there right now. The transfer to secondary roads, there is a provision in the state code that allows kind of it's called a maximum. I don't know if they really mean that, because I've been told you can maybe pay more out if you wish to. We are taxing for that transfer. And because this is something the board takes action on, when I prepared the initial draft, you noticed when we went through all the other board activities, I left for now all the amounts the same as 26. Typically, that transfer gets translated into a percentage, which would be a different amount. And we can certainly change that. I think you'll see on one of the other documents we have that the amount, if we stayed at the same percentage as last year.
And that was like we said last year, that was 97% was the rate
I
that we
believe
used
last year was
I think we had
97,
quite a bit of
and-
discussion on it that,
Right, and this works out to be 95.
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, and that was some of the discussion, that was like where we were left last year was at 97, and that's typically what some of the department would use for the, this year versus what the amount is there. Yeah, we can make decisions on that.
So with what you have right now, we're still 273 over with the 350 cap,
That's correct.
and
We are.
then or 103,000 over on
In
the
the
rural basic cap.
Yes, yep. So so the transfer from the general supplemental levy, that is for employee benefits. We are allowed under the state code to levy employee benefits only for employees paid out of the general fund using the general supplemental levy. So that is what I have recorded on here at this time. I did apply a turnover factor in the general supplemental levy, which we'll look at in just a second. The other general revenue, the last row that appears on this line, is slightly up, which is kind of exciting. We apparently underestimated a little bit the change in how the homestead tax credits and some of those credits that are being changed to exemptions, so we were a little maybe too cautious. Those appear to be in 26 coming in better, so I kind of put them up to a maximum amount, I guess I'll say. There is a decrease in here of 118,000 for the property tax replacement that's being phased out on the change of the commercial rollback. If you might remember, we've been getting that. It's an 8-year phase out, but it goes down about 118,000 every year until it runs out. We got a couple more years of that. So there are a lot of things, working against us to reduce revenue. That's the environment we're in, I guess. Then the general supplemental levy. You've also heard all the department conversations here. The one thing we didn't really talk about again was the employee benefits. That last line, transfer to general basic levy, you'll see in the column for request, the expense is $10,099,000, same as the revenue going into the general fund. But I did apply the turnover pool, I gave it a portion here, and we've done this the last couple of years as well, in an attempt not to have that fund balance growing, I'm using 500 from there to bring that down. And that obviously reduces your taxes by that $500,000 as well.
Is there more room to take out of that?
Pardon me?
Is there more room to take out of that?
Well, I guess we need to talk about the theory. I did these based on actual experience
Yes.
in the past. So there is fund balance there, The question is,
When you use it?
when do you use it?
Yeah.
How much should you use and how fast do you want to take it down? Those are the things we would want to consider more about that.
But they are things that you can use your fund balance for, and when you
Yeah.
tax people for it, and that's kind of that protection, so to speak, that we can.
So you mentioned for equipment and so forth, going forward for capital stuff, we're gonna have to start relying on the general, or the reserves, right?
It's the only choice we have for equipment, or,
Yeah.
it's not the only choice. I'm gonna say it's the easier choice. I think our staff would feel that way. Because your other choice is if you're gonna include it in the general fund, you've gotta cut something else. And to cut, like for this year, if you're gonna adjust something by 1.1 million, that's pretty substantial. And the way the law stands today, No, we wanted to ask for that law to be put back in. That was a change that kind of snuck in a couple of years ago that and we thought it was unintentional at that time. They just removed some catch-all language is the term people use. That is a term that many counties were using to purchase equipment, and they removed that, and then we can't purchase equipment that way, so.
And so we're sitting at 27.5+ million currently.
We are today.
And that's slowly, oh, I shouldn't even say slowly, that's gonna start dwindling down. And so-
Absolutely, the plan I keep
Yeah.
showing you shows it going down, and we intend for it to go down. Like, I think the question is, that we need to resolve is, how much should it go down and how fast should it go down?
Yeah.
Because under the current tax laws, your revenues are gonna continue to be more constrained. At the same time, you know, assuming that we keep our employee FTE counts the same, you're going to have more costs related to employees, both in pay and in benefits. So it becomes very difficult to continue funding your operations. So that's why I think it's totally appropriate to use reserves, and those reserves got built up due to several reasons. You sold Country View. That was a good decision I'm just gonna speak about the budgetary side of it. Because you were, and I don't even know if anyone that's here today realizes it, but you were bumping into that 350 cap right before you sold Country View. When you divested that helped quite a bit to have room under that 350 cap for a while. Then we went through COVID, which was a very interesting time for local government budgets. I know as someone that's worked in the field, we were very concerned that revenue was gonna go to zero. If you remember, there was a time the casino was completely closed for a time, businesses were closed, the governor extended the deadline for people to even pay their property taxes. So fiscal 20, there was a lot of concern from the financial people that what's happening, because we weren't so much worried about expenses growing, but we were concerned about revenue. Some of that revenue, it did decline temporarily, and it was other than taxes primarily, but it held up better than we expected. The thing that we didn't probably expect was, it felt like there was a lot of employee turnover at that time. So that created savings in the budgets on the expense side, and so I think it's true of many local governments that fund balances grew a lot during that. I'm gonna say 4-year period because it took a while to really get back to what I would call a new normal now. So it did grow over time, and the question is now, how do we get back to a reasonable place, and how do we not, a concern I have, because it's tempting, and we'll talk about this on the next slides I have, well, okay, let's just use it to not have increases to our taxpayers. But I have huge concerns with that, because whether any of us in this room are still working here, there will still be employees that need to be paid, there will still be taxpayers that want and need services, so it really is a balancing act about the short term versus trying to set up a structured plan that goes as far into the future as we can. And obviously, especially with the state legislature, they seem to be changing the rules every year, so it's very difficult to have a plan that works when the rules keep changing. But all we can do is the best we can. So that's what we tried.
And we did have, you touched on with ARPA, but I said that injection of $25 million because of COVID, that was money that was very much designated at a timeline, and we had to spend it in a certain amount of time or forego it and give it back. That kind of took our savings account, we left it there. It was like we knew we could plan strategically on how we wanted to utilize that going forward, and in the meantime kind of focused on what projects we could get done and how we utilize that. And really were quite successful. We weren't sure at the time. I think we thought, how will we ever do this? But, so that worked well, that we were now coming to the closure of the projects at the end of 26 here and seeing that what we've done. But in the meantime, though, we've had some, changes that we've made, because we had reserves. I think they were about 75% level in that undesignated amount, unassigned, I'm sorry. But, we've still managed to be, we can say yesterday, we're about 45% now, so we've reduced that considerably in the last maybe 3 years.
Yes, we have been doing that.
So,
I
it is
had to
really-
start with slowing the rate of growth of that. It's taken a lot of thought to figure out how to do that appropriately.
And that's what always concerns me a little bit, that the county services that we provide and need to provide and want to provide, that we need funding for that to be available. So sometimes when we start looking at outside interest or, outside the county, just at what level that kind of giving, at what cost that comes at, so that we can continue doing what we're supposed to do. That's another conversation, another day, or maybe for later. But yes, some of the things that we want to consider, I guess, when we start looking at cutting budgets, to me, that is what typically you'd have reserves for, and you try to work with taxpayer dollars to buffer that somewhat, so we're not cutting programs. But we'll see where that goes. I know I appreciate that you try to highlight those costs for us, but 273,000 or 300,000, I guess. And
So those are things we have to address in the budget one way or another. So that's why it's here, whether you,
how we address it. Yeah.
right, how you do it, it's up to you. And then the rural fund, you can see, is over by 103,000. That, I'm showing you that you could choose to add a new levy, the rural supplemental levy. We do have enough employee benefits in the rural fund that could be done with that 100,000.
What kind of a difference would that make?
It would not change, this worksheet, other than I would add another levy. Right now, the way the security is, that 5.6% increase in tax collections would still be the 5.6% increase in taxes. I haven't pulled it out. That's another thing we'll talk about in a little bit, but you can see your general basic levy is about here. I'll talk about this one. The countywide taxes, the countywide levy, the collections are going up 3.5%. And I know probably you've all heard about all the tax bills that are in the legislature last year and this year. A really recurring theme is putting a 2% cap on increased revenue. So that's, not quite half of what we would need to fund things today. That may include the 273 as being taxed, or probably actually a little below that.
Is that something you want to discuss, or would be thinking about discussing, is designating for funding, I guess, some of our funds? I'm just thinking from a precautionary standpoint, if we get to the end of the legislature session, they start capping things, if that isn't something we want to do beforehand, just a discussion, I guess. But, yeah.
I think, yes, I would suggest you do that. That particular provision is, I believe, only in one of the bills. We don't, you don't know where it's really going to go, but yeah, we do want to protect ourselves as much as we can.
Michelle, how much is, when we're looking at that 3.5% gap, how much of that is actual just wages for our employees? It's over 50%, I'm sure.
Probably, no, I don't think I have those numbers with me. I'll have to get back.
I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
And then if you would, for next week, I'd like to know what the total wages each year has been for, that's been applied to our budget. We're looking at these wage increases. How much is that just as an increase each year?
Yep, I have schedules of that,
Okay.
they're not very pretty, so I'll try to make
Yeah, I
it.
remember a number, I think, from last year, and I don't wanna say what it is, 'cause I'm not exact sure, but it was kinda scary, it's what I think it was last year.
It is, we are truly a service organization, so most of our expenses are people. Yeah, no question of that.
So-
Alright, yes,
I was just gonna say, so we just need to figure out what our options are right now.
We're kind of editing that.
decide what you're interested in pursuing, I think is what. I did, I debated, I was concerned about even showing this, cause I'm not trying to alarm staff, but I do think for purposes of conversation, it might be helpful to put things in perspective. So you have already seen the top few rows of this that shows what the percent of tax increase would be based on that initial draft budget. Then I did an example that, well, okay, what if we allowed the growth in how the 350 went up, but that includes revaluations, I don't have a good number for real growth yet. How would that affect our budget? So we would need to reduce our general fund by $825,000. And that would include the 273 that we're already over anyway, so it's another $400,000 or $500,000 to add to that.
So to get to this top, I guess it's the top of 4 for us, this first one. That's the one you're speaking of?
I
That
am
hypothetical?
looking at the hypothetical county taxes.
That's what I mean, but
Yeah.
the first of our 4,
Yes, the
you've
first
got 4.
section, the first section is only cutting the 273. Well, I don't even wanna say cutting, because there are different ways to do it. Departments may be able to identify more revenue. And obviously, yes, reserves are an option. I'm always reluctant to do reserves only because I think it's good budgetary policy to use those for one-time things, which is why I prefer it for capital. But, yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. So then right now I'm talking about the second set of lines on that page. If we were I'm kind of trying to hear some of the things the legislature is saying and saying, okay, what if we had to live with that, what would happen? And I don't have very good information right now, so at any rate, we'd be talking about trying to reduce, between the general fund and the general supplemental, you're talking about a $1.1 million change. I'm gonna call it a change because there could be tweaks to revenue, their departments may find other ways to meet that. And then the rural fund would need to reduce the 207,000. And then I often get a question about, well, I don't want my property taxes to change. Because we have a lot of people, what would you have to do to make my property taxes stay the same as they were last year? This one is a tough one in this year because we did have property revaluations this year of existing properties. And just a reminder, what that's trying to do is true up your taxable value to what your potential value would be if you sold your property today. But, so urban residential properties in Blackhawk County saw it, and the revaluation estimates are percentages that I got from the assessor's office. They are an average of all the properties in the category. So people's individual properties are going to be different. That's one thing I can tell you. Your house may not have gone up 9.9, but the average of all of them in that category did. So to get that residential urban to zero and the rural to zero, we would need to find ways to reduce the property tax askings of nearly 1.8 million and the rural by another 207,000. So we'd be talking about a change of some kind of $2 million just to allow the residentials to pay the same amount they paid last year. The one anomaly on here that surprised me was the industrial properties. that 10.1% increase in their revaluation was higher than I could remember seeing. So I did talk to TJ about that, and this is kind of related to the new manual that they had to adopt for the 23s. They're still kind of cleaning some things up, and some things that affected industrial are coming in here, so he does think that is a good, fair percentage for what we will see to industrial properties.
So to accomplish that though, we need $2 million.
$2 million.
Just appreciate the information.
Well, and that's really my purpose in showing it, is so that we all understand why we're not doing that, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you couldn't, but it would take extreme measures, I think is how I would describe that. And the last box that I added to this, and I did just get that added this morning, cause I didn't think about it till I went home last night. You do have a copy in your packet somewhere. What if we reduce our property tax collections by 2%? If that is the new limit. I did not try to factor in plus new growth. Some of the bills say plus new growth, whatever that amount is. I just let it be at an increase of 2%, and that would mean needing to adjust by the general and the general supplemental by just under $500,000, the rural by 134,000. So those would be ideas being thrown out.
So I think we definitely should be adding the rural supplemental levy. I wonder still if there was anything still in the overage of that 273,000 that could be justified going into that.
I really haven't had any luck
Okay.
doing other things. It's possible that animal control, I cannot find the ruling, but I thought I looked into this a year ago, and there was an appeal that definitely said that benefited the whole county. But I, of course, can't locate that now, and they've changed the state system, so I've asked for some help, but we are not finding it at this time. So maybe it could go over there, but when we do that, we have to remember those are tax increases. So we're already at 4% for residential. That will just keep growing.
Do you have any of the materials, and maybe not today, but you've probably presented as far as our revenue? And, you know, I think we looked at that, like we said, last year we came out ahead because of the interest rates were very good. But I just thought if you look at the things like our lost, our gaming, those areas of kind of some history on that, where they've been and where they've come in, would that be, and interest as well?
Yeah,
Just to
well,
give us something to compare.
if you remember, that's a big change that Billy and Linda did recommend. We have bumped up interest revenue significantly, hopefully within the range of where it will be. It's hard, that one's hard to predict, especially right now. Gaming, I did move up again slightly. Their performance is better than we probably were expecting from last year. Lost that's not general fund or rural, we'll get to that in its own fund, but of course, I shouldn't say that, because of course half of it does go to the rural fund.
Yeah.
I did look at that and we seem to be right on target with that today. No, it's hard to, something could change, right? That would mean that could be increased.
You know, we used to fund, a couple of years we funded part of the community services out of reserves. I think that's something that is probably appropriate to do, and it's something that we just can continue doing until our reserves are in a position that we can't do that. But that would take 100,000 out of the 273.
It's roughly 150 if you're still doing the 50,000.
You do both of them, yeah.
175 actually.
Oh, yeah, cattle drivers.
Yep.
You have those down to, at least for us to think about or something, you have on one of the sheets, I believe, right? Yeah,
Yes.
You do that.
I don't know that I listed the community funding, but I did have, the Congress and the food bank.
Food bank is in there.
Good, thank you. Yeah.
So you want,
Michelle, last week I thought I recalled a conversation about moving rural deputies to what's that look like percentage wise, moving them over to the rural fund. I think we're at 85% now. Is that correct?
we're at 80% now, and I
Okay.
thought both Sheriff Neff and I felt like that's probably a pretty fair split, because we do know they do work within the cities some of the time.
I think I'd be more comfortable with 85%, but, I don't disagree that they do work in the cities at the same time, but, rural residents certainly benefit from the municipal police forces and don't pay into that at all. And so that's where the trade-off is at.
Okay.
Okay, so we shave off community service funding out of the budget, so that saves us between 1 and 175.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about adding the others, like I said, there's
Yeah.
mentioned that, there's
Yeah.
an addition to it.
175
Just looking
tops
at
from that,
things,
as we're just exploring options here.
Yeah.
So this doesn't take too terribly long. I don't know, last week I'd mentioned doing that, and then what's the board salary increase? Assuming 3%, doesn't equate to much, but less than I think about $8,000 roughly.
Maybe per percentage with me.
I think we asked last week, didn't we, for the, like, say what those different
And
increments.
I did work on that, we just got it worked out late yesterday, so I don't have this in a pretty format just yet, but. Sorry, it's hard to,
It's all right.
I'd shut this off, but
I'm glad you went home, Michelle.
getting old, I have to go home.
And I'm trying to remember now, because I don't have the sheet from last week in front of me. The requested positions from County Attorney's Office, IT, Caitlin's interns, those are included in the 273.
Correct.
Okay, so then we nix those position requests, if they're not essential. Then I think we're making our way down there.
I have a question about the interns for health, if that was being paid by federal grant money or something.
Yeah, there was some grant funding.
Yeah, it's not a direct cost.
So if it's not costing us a dime, then fine, but I don't think that was the case with the interns.
No, not the interns, I think it was the grant, there were
The
grants.
Thrive
Yeah.
grant covered.
There's 3 full-time positions funded 100% by Thrive. And then, the 3 paid interns, those were just interns.
Yeah.
So that would be on our,
Mhm.
okay.
But I thought, yeah,
And so then that gives us, I don't know where that puts us, that 273, but that starts to cut away a good chunk of it.
and that's why, we wanna look at all options.
I think that they well justify the intern positions. I'd like to see where we get in the 273 of moving the deputies to 85% and cutting those community services parts out of reserves instead. That's the scenario I'm most interested in.
And do you think there's any budget room, I guess, in the revenue? I mean,
Yeah, definitely interested in where.
I
if
am
there's
looking for
people
more
who
of those than anywhere, I guess.
take another look at their revenue.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you should direct your departments to do that.
Yeah.
Department heads to do that. If you would do that, I can reach out to them.
Well, the gaming and, you say lost isn't considering that, the gaming even, I don't know how much you were projecting, but something you could check with them as well. Any of those.
But regardless, we're coming out of the general fund for something this year, right? Or no?
I'm sorry,
Regardless of what we do, are we coming out of the general fund?
what, I'm not sure
Okay,
what you mean.
okay.
I'm being dumb.
I know, I didn't know, like, prior to when I went to the bathroom, I didn't know. We're having a discussion.
Yeah, right now we're talking about coming out of the general fund.
Yeah.
Some of the suggestions are though, just to move things to rural and then increase that, which you're at that, well, yeah. Have more employee benefits. Okay, yes, you could still increase the rural supplemental and increase rural taxes. They're already, those are what are already going up to 5.5%, but if you want to raise them more.
And at some point, that caps out where we can't do that though, right? Looking ahead.
It does.
And so I don't think that gets us, that buys us another day, kind of.
It limits the number of days, yeah, because that's one of the ways we've been able to do things is to increase the portion of employee benefits, paid out of those supplemental levies. That raises people's taxes, but it gives you the ability to pay for the services, so it's all a matter of degree how quick you get there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Chris that those positions are probably justified, but that's the problem is that we're obviously up against a lot, and I would love in a perfect world to give everybody all the positions that they wanted and asked for, but we just can't do that in reality. So people are gonna have to probably learn to live without, do the best you can with what you have.
Well, I think, Justin, I think part of the discussion that we need to have is that maybe they don't, but I think that's a little bit of the exploration that we're having. I know that when we talked a little bit about some of the budget scenarios, there was some, it felt as if we were getting into debating future hypotheticals. To your point, we're maybe solving a problem that we might have to come back and address later. That, at least my first term, that's all we've done. And I'm sure probably Chris and Linda could say the same, that it feels like every year the budgets always seem to be compressed. And then as we move through this process, I think to Linda and Chris's point, if we can find some additional revenues, I think asking department heads to help solve this, put a sharper pencil to paper on that front. I think there are some, I don't want to necessarily take positions off of the docket completely until we've exhausted other efforts.
Yeah, later.
I mean, I'm fine with like exploring everything, that's kind of what we're getting everything out on the table and seeing where we can go or what we can do and I think we can, yeah. We did last year, we had the same issue, maybe not the same amount, but we came up to the same questions of where can we go and then we came out fine.
Michelle, the evaluations and stuff that TJ was talking about, they're not totally final right now what those values are yet.
Yes, for
They
our
are.
next budget they are. What he's
Okay.
working on now is the next fiscal year
Next
already.
fiscal, okay.
Yeah, it's a lengthy process for
Yeah.
how it works, but yeah, they are set now with some exceptions. Anyone that is taking us to PAB system or to district court, those may not be settled yet, and we never really hear about those. We just won't collect as much as we expect.
And we talked about once fees too, not that it's an exorbitant amount, but as far as I know, the assessor's office and EMA, some of those, I think, whether it's for use of HR or using IT services, I don't know if that's an area we wanna at least consider. Have we done anything with that in recent years, or has it changed much?
It hasn't changed a lot.
Have we? next one.
Yeah, I would agree, if a fee hasn't changed, we need to
Then
take
take
a look at it.
any of those places where there's fees, I guess, that we are able to, that we're not restricted. Just. What else? Oh, no, it's come up over the years, this isn't even this year's budget, but I was gonna say, the, Pinecrest Security. That was a position we weren't really certain that was needed. It was needed at one time because we'd had somebody throw a phone or something. So we just responded that way to make sure it was, but the security that's needed here is so much different than what's needed out there. I don't know, that might be something we could consider too, that we could reduce a little bit. Rory, I don't know, I just want your thoughts on it, but I just meant, not to put you on the spot today, but I just meant, when I throw that out there, I didn't mean to say, oh, guess what?
No, currently we're spending, it's about $50,000 a year that we're spending on that guard over at Pinecrest. I will say, with the new improvements that we're making on that building, for an example, the reception area, as you come in the main door, that has a solid piece of glass there now. We have included more cameras on the exterior part of the building and the interior. And we've also added more door access throughout the building. So, I mean, we've done things that have definitely improved the security of that building.
Thank you.
Another 50.
Just getting ideas and throwing them down, I said, we won't have more than
Yeah, definitely open to that. I'd encourage departments that are over there to chime in and let us know their
Yes.
thoughts on it.
Oh, for sure.
There had been a fairly serious incident in the old VA office with the flag and the javelin.
Oh, when they were located
Yeah.
together and they got,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they got their separate interests in that.
Right.
They have, now in the new facility, they have window access as well, limited access.
They were quite the maze before.
Yeah.
So some of these ideas then, I guess I thought, yeah, and you were talking about community funding, but if you're talking, you included cattle Congress and some of those at least for us to consider as well. Okay. Are you making a list kind of, Michelle, and keep, I was gonna say too, I know last year, I'm not asking you to come up with solutions at this point in time, but if there's some things that we considered last year that we're maybe haven't thought about or something too, just to be thinking of that, but.
Michelle's writing down all the spaghetti we're throwing out the fridge. So.
That's right, we'll see what sticks to the wall later.
Yeah.
By next Wednesday, we need to probably have some decisions made though, right?
Start making them anyway, yeah.
You need, I mean, that would be ideal if you have them all made, but we need to at least know the maximum we're gonna be asking the tax for. Because that's what has to be used and nailed out in those mailers to the public.
So were you gonna have the information then, that's what, like when we talked about the staffing and the salaries and that type of thing, the different levels, would we have that, those numbers then?
Yeah, we can actually probably look at that right
As well as the elected officials? No.
Okay, let me rephrase that. You're not talking about the new staff, you wanna look at the salaries of elected?
I'm not talking about new staff, you have,
The one I just had up.
I mean,
Okay.
that's fine for us to review next time, but I said I know that was a slide we've got, because I've got it in here.
From last year.
No, I meant that you had for this year, when you did a presentation, you had the new
Yes,
positions.
For the new, that's what I'm asking, you do want the new positions.
I think
Okay.
we do
I
want them to
yeah.
identify for an area to consider, yes.
Yes, I gotcha. And we can look at them now if you want to, too.
But I know we didn't have salary amounts for, I think for what the percentages were for us, we talked about,
Correct.
you know, okay, say this amount, and what is it? Because maybe we cut some for us. It's just looking at, yeah, what
Yeah,
there is to consider.
Absolutely.
Necessarily.
Yes, we will have definitely the salary information for elected officials, department heads, we will have for Tuesday. We can, I mean, you don't have a copy of it, but I have it on the screen
Okay.
with some options. And it looks like the 3%, I think I'm tracking this correctly, I think the 3% is 14,000 for the 5 of you, the total.
So, I know like a lot of this information was updated and you gave to us today because you've been working on it, but couldn't we get some of that information? I think for us to make decisions, the sooner the better, probably. Or at least have more discussion next week to make decisions.
Yep. I've already got that in there, so.
There were some areas you had in the budget and stuff where you mentioned the non-staff increases requested and they were, and it's probably because it all becomes a blur sometimes, like the postage and
Yep.
some of those things in there, I don't know, I'm not to.
That is
Just.
There's another exhibit. This one, I'm just showing you increases in non-personnel expense line items in the general fund. So we did increase the publishing cost budget in the board by 2,000, that's only for board minutes, basically. A few other things, and just appears we're gonna need that, but we could back it down and roll the dice there. The auditor's office had increases of 7,085. The sheriff's office had 257,634. You probably remember when we went through that. The Summit contract, should have been an increase last year budgeted for that we didn't, so that he's kind of forcing him to double up on that a little bit this time. The health contract costs, and then housing if we have to have them out of county. Treasurer's office was actually able to reduce their expenses, as was the recorder. The attorney's office had increases in software and some computer equipment, 28,500. Human resources was requesting an increase of 27,200 for a variety of things. I think we did discover there's some reductions we can take out of there. There was a $2,000 for printing that is in Gabby's budget, and it was also still in HR, so we don't need to do it twice, we can pull that out. Information technology had increases of 57,106 for mostly software, a little bit for dues. Maintenance, we have a total increase of $137,433 for a variety of things, janitorial, utilities. We are opening, we have opened a new building, so they're tweaking some of those numbers. The medical examiner, I tried to move up, we've been doing this for several years, and every year they are over budget anyway. And I mean, not because of anything they're doing, we just are having increased number of deaths, many of them that are requiring autopsies, which are expensive.
I know you're trying to make that number more accurately reflect what they were, but quite honestly, we have to pay for them regardless. If we budget them zero, we'd still end up having to pay for that.
Well, yes.
I'm just saying that's an item we.
Okay, so if we don't budget for, our budget serves multiple functions at the state level. One of it's the property tax level. Another of it is we are not supposed to be exceeding our expenses by program in any expense. So that's one reason I prefer, I guess, the expenses to try to be accurate, because I don't wanna get to the end of the year and have an audit finding because, you overspent because you didn't budget enough for some, and granted, medical examiner, it's not under our control, but it's still part of a budget that we need to budget for.
Oh, I know, I understand
So,
that,
so that's why, that's why I'm trying to do that. Just seems.
I'm just saying some of those adjustments that we've made have increased those amounts.
You're correct about that. We have been, and I typically only move it up to what we actually spent the prior year. This time I thought, okay, I'll try to add a little bit more in. I already have a list to back that down a little bit, in an effort to balance things out. Public health reduced their total expenses by 42,000. Some of that is because of grants going away, so you might wonder why.
Sure.
General assistance, Colleen had cut some of her expenses. The board agencies, we ended up with a net reduction there of 3,000.
What was that for?
It's a variety of things up and down, so it wasn't just one thing. Postage, I did move up 17,000. We're gonna likely to be significantly over budget there this year. And I really can't pin it down to why, other than we maybe underestimated the rate increase that was effective last July. So this, I was just trying to move that up, and another list that I'm making, I would probably knock 5,000 of that increase out and only increase it by 12. The next line is marketing budgets, my small increase there of 2,000. And then the audit cost in the proposal we signed, that's rising, so I have incorporated that. And that does assume that we still only have one federal program to audit. When we get to the end of ARPA, we might find our audit costs rising because we may have to go back to auditing multiple programs. I know that's jargon, but each of those programs cost probably a good 5,000 to audit, so if we need more, that's gonna add another chunk to that.
I was gonna say, I thought if we're dropping ARPA, we would have less costs.
No, because it's technical, but they have to audit at least 40% of our federal expenses in a year. And because our ARPA costs were so large, we could just do that program, and we did not have to get into, several health department programs, for example, or road programs that are funded with federal money. And as we approach the end of using the ARPA expenses, that is going to change which programs. I can't tell you if we will still have one that will cover 40%, particularly with all the changes coming at us from the federal side with some of the way things are funded today, with all the changes, there could be a change.
Okay.
And I have not planned for that in here. I think we have one more year before we have to worry about that. If you remember, I did request software that would allow me to create a little bit more of the final financials and hopefully different budget reports. I'm still trying to confirm that and haven't heard back from that yet. Conservation expense increases were 4,800. So our total general fund expense line increases were only 516,000. But those are all things that can be looked at.
With the list of decisions needed, that might be helpful.
I did.
Some of the things, but
These are items
the other two.
these are items that the board handles that don't flow through another department, so that's why they're on this sheet. Strategic planning, we currently have 30,500 in the board office budget for that. And I don't know what thoughts are going forward, so I don't know if that's too little, too much, that's just what's there, because that's what was in there from 26, so that's something that needs to be thought through.
That might be in conversation with Ted, or I don't know if somebody's had one with him, or need to revisit it just to double check, I guess, what that number is. I know Amanda had some money in her, or funding in her budget for a lot for some of that, for training. I
For
don't
the
know if that
leadership
was-
university piece, and I just don't know
And I didn't know.
how much that is versus if there's other activities we want to do with him.
And some of that with the university, was that what the individual departments were putting in their budgets?
There's a portion,
So training and.
and then I have Grow Cedar Valley listed here based on the conversation from last week. As you remember, you have been funding them out of the community services funding. They did not score high enough to be funded this year. So for 26, and I'm just kind of assuming the same would happen for 27, so.
So this, really should, like say, there was an approval of funding last week for them, so they would be funded in 26.
Without any budget. 25,000, but with no budget.
Okay. No, it was for 26.
Oh, that was, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
26,
26 they were here for, yeah.
yes, $25,000 for 26, correct, yes.
So.
Last year may have been the first year we funded the food bank outside of the community funding, but yeah, I think it was. So
I think it's maybe been one more year than that.
I think I found it for 25, but, I mean, because we were funding them under community funding, so maybe I'm off a year, I thought I looked into that, but I might have be off a year there.
And then the additional was this year.
The extra 50.
Federal stuff, so, yeah. Cattle Congress is what, be for the third, this would be a third year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, third or even 27.
Was
Yeah,
there
I think
any,
it would be the third, yes.
was there any inkling that we were gonna continue that for so many years?
No, we didn't do like a multi-year, it wasn't anything like that, it was just kind of, they came back with a proposal and we helped them the first year and then they were included in the second. Came back, pretty much we did the same thing, wasn't it? Was pretty much to help with the marketing of the Cattle Congress for the most part,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yes, well, that's how I understood it to be, yeah.
but, yeah. that was-
And I've listed out the general fund transfer to roads at either 97
Yeah.
or 95. Again,
Yeah,
you'll notice on this whole list, I was putting everything in at the same dollar amounts.
yeah, you put the dollar amount instead of the percentage, yeah.
I did.
That's right, and that's why I said, so that would, if it was that, if we looked at 97%, it would have that 15,000 with it.
Correct.
I mean, it would have been that additional.
You would, and then
And
that
then it would be
the
reduced from there.
273 would go up.
Yeah, 15,000 or
Yeah.
whatever, but I just meant to be, yeah, because I think that's where we thought it typically, and Kathy can correct me if it's wrong too, I thought that we usually use typically the percentage from whatever year's been previously, and that's been anywhere maybe from a 95 to, I think you even said yesterday, Michelle, it's like at least once it was 100% or something.
Yeah.
Does that sound,
Historically, that's what we had used for budgeting, percentage.
you just base it on what it was? Yeah. That was why the question on that one, so.
For Kathy and Ryan, here's one for you. On bridge replacements that we've already talked about, obviously the railroad cars is a possibility for certain things. Does any of those bridge costs come out of taxable revenue for us?
So, right now, the last few years, we are paying for our county crew bridge work, out of the local option sales tax
That's right.
money, so technically it's not in this budget,
Right.
it's in our local option sales tax
Right.
budget.
I'm just stretching,
Yeah.
looking for any,
Right,
yeah,
and,
that's all.
yes,
Okay, thank you.
All those different buckets.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what, in libraries, you've got them there as well.
Yeah, and on the rural fund, we go to the rural funds. You can see where we funded them and what they are requesting.
They requested.
221,816 is the total they requested, and that'd be an increase of 11,743. That is not currently reflected on your property tax summary worksheet again, because I left it at where we were for 26.
And that was at 4% something like that.
5.5, I believe.
Oh, was
You're
it?
right, I think so.
Because we had a history with them of like 368, 355, 274, 3, 683. Then we took a couple of jumps.
Yeah, we did.
683, 6, and then one year we even did 12
We did.
to try to get them higher, but
Yeah, the last couple of years, and this, with the the statistics they showed us, if you bump it up to the 221, then you will be, I believe, above
state almost.
the average from last year.
I know that was a nice request from them, but they never really gave a reason for it to be so high. They just wanted us to be exceeding the state.
Yeah, there was some kind of average or she was making some comment about. I
About
don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's a statewide average.
Statewide average.
Well, no, it's a state average, but why,
Yeah,
they
no,
just
I
didn't make an
understand.
argument for why we should be over or better than that. They just said, this month will take you over. I was like, yeah.
What if we just looked at doing a 3% increase for them?
We could.
Sure. At least consider it.
See what that brings that down.
That gets up to about 216, so it cuts it. Not quite half, but.
Yeah. I know there's not a lot sometimes we can look at, but we need to look at our own things first, really, before we.
Yep. We can move to capital, or if you have other things you wanna talk about, what do you wanna do next?
Let's keep this train moving.
Okay, we're in for it now. And you have heard almost all the departments, if not all of them. Maybe the board office might be the only one you actually haven't heard about, and that was because we're just asking for a postage machine that's being required due to new federal regulations, so we have to upgrade it. You have, the first sheet you have is the 5-year summary. And you can see, well, we're a little bit different that 1156, 1152, and I think I've got 1146 on your property tax asking sheet. And the requests are 1.475, and I'm doing the totals without roads because roads has always been able to afford to pay for their own, either out of secondary roads funds or basically the amount we transfer to them. $1 million to it, it's been floating around $1 million. 1.475 is a little higher in fiscal '28. And then you've got the bonded suggested portion too, which we need to talk about. Fiscal '30, the equipment dropped to 613, and also 643 and 31. That's little, isn't it? So the auditors, and Aaron's here to talk about it, but requesting $1 million to replace the optical scanning voting machine. Fortunately, that's still considered an essential corporate purpose, so we can issue bonds to do that should we choose to. And then a small amount to digitize our election records.
So you're compiling the information and knowing really what's gotta be bonded for, because the possibility of being bonded for anyway, just haven't.
Correct.
presented that.
Yes, I have reached out about that.
And I know last year we talked about doing that every other year.
We
versus
did.
doing it every year.
Yep.
So what would be the pros and cons? I mean, to think like why we are doing it now again.
Well, we're gonna go through this process, I think, every year. I would like to get on the front end of issuing the debt than on the back end of after we've already gone through a year, departments are working on the projects. That's one reason, but yeah, we wanted to stick to every other year. It's a time-intensive process and you get better rates, and the cost of getting a Moody's rating of hiring the attorneys is cheaper. That's why we were trying to group it up, so we were doing 4 or 5 million at a time. There's some other things that I'm thinking about now. We know one of the lovely property tax bills wants to force us to go to a public vote to bond for $1. Literally everything would require a vote. There would be no essential purpose, if you're under 40,000, you're gonna go to a public vote. I don't know that that's gonna happen, but it's out there. So we have that out there, and there's another technical thing called bank qualification. Currently, there are limits. You can get cheaper rates as long as you issue 10 million or less in any one calendar year. So I'm also thinking of a couple of really large things that we have coming, and I'm trying to figure out how to best juggle all this. And as I looked at it, I do think we need to consider maybe going ahead and issuing this spring for our, what I'm gonna call our regular 2-year capital, so that we would not be issuing next year for our regular CIP. We might be issuing for one of the large projects that's out there. Those are the only things that I've been brainstorming in my own head about, and those are all choices we have to make.
Is there anything currently paid for with a secondary roads transfer that would instead be bond eligible?
That would be what?
That would instead be bond eligible?
They potentially might have some road construction projects, possibly, because they've moved around. I was trying to get their construction all out of local options, but I think they've changed that now, so I think some of it might be coming out of secondary roads.
So you're thinking maybe Kathy that there would be, maybe, or any thoughts on that?
Can you repeat that? If more money came out of, more construction funding came, if we did all of our construction funding out of the local option sales tax?
I think what Chris was asking is, are you doing any construction projects currently out of your secondary roads fund?
Aren't we doing any maintenance?
There is maintenance projects coming out of our secondary roads fund currently. The only thing right now, at least especially in 27, that is running through our secondary roads fund for construction is portions of projects we're being reimbursed for. So we didn't want to run our reimbursement portions of projects through LOST. So most of our construction is funded through LOST, our farm to market account, federal aid that we get through the MPO with the RTA. Bridge construction is mostly our highway bridge program, our federal aid, or our bridge work is coming out of LOST currently. So we've shifted a lot of that to LOST since we did make that change to fund a lot of that directly through there. Right now, there isn't any construction other than what we're being reimbursed for coming out of secondary roads.
It was a thought, yeah.
Do you want to go through each?
Or are there changes? I guess I'm wondering,
No,
are there any changes?
I don't believe there are
I mean,
changes.
we can read through, or if we have questions, I guess, not today, we could actually,
Rory, the landscaping, we could live without trees
Yes.
or whatever we're gonna do.
It's actually not so much trees, it's more so the front side of the Pinecrest facility, the rock area there at the entry and along the length of the building.
Okay.
But yeah, we can get another year by without doing that if that's something you choose to pull off.
How much is budgeted for that?
32. Nate, you could,
I could do it for 5.
maybe have some people from the
Okay,
inmates
right.
go over there,
Okay.
hard labor.
Absolutely, we can find somebody to put to work over there for you.
We used to actually do that, every year.
Yeah, we used to have, we had a lot more time servers, we would get workers out, we would go to Hickory Hills, we would go all over the county, we'd help out my Waterloo Days stuff, but,
That's right.
we just don't
Yeah.
have the time servers to do it, and we generally don't like take people with active charges out on those things, so.
Still probably less escapees than the halfway house too.
Well, yeah, but I always hate when they get classified as escapees over there because they literally let them leave. They're more failure to come backies. Right, you're intended to go.
Jailbreak.
I can teach you how to plant bargain shop.
Yeah.
There we go.
Since we've got capital, if I could touch back on my gun request for mine. I know we've kind of talked about that a couple times now. It's recommended they be replaced every 5 years, we're on year 7 of them. We've got $80,000 in there, and that's with the trade-in, the buyback. We got our quote on this prior to the end of the year, knowing we can get it budgeted. First of the year, they went up by $45 per gun, and our quote is only good through the end of this month. So if I don't get them ordered here in the next 10 days or so, they're gonna go up $45 per gun. So I really kind of need, I know you guys aren't officially voting on anything, whatever, but if I can kind of get a green light that I'm safe on that, I need to do it. Justin, you'd asked me about the second weapon for my SWAT guys. That's something that they've always done, which I hate the answer, we're doing it because that's the way we've always done it. But in this case, not only is it a training thing with that, that's what they're used to. First off, that makes up about $14,000 of that $80,000, so cutting it out doesn't do a whole lot on there. But the other part is, anybody going into a SWAT scenario should have 2 weapons on them. Typically, it's a rifle and a handgun. My shield guy, if there's a ram being used, or if there's a designated hands-on person, they don't carry rifles. So that other Glock is their second weapon going into that tax situation. So there is reason to have that there as well. If we're looking to cut from my capital, I've got 2 different floor projects that total about $25,000. I could easily make those concessions on you, but I do need to get my guns ordered. And there's roughly an 8-month turnaround on it, so I need to get them first price goes up here in 10 days, and second, we need to get them in this fall so we can get trained on them and get them swapped out.
We don't have the sheriff's stuff.
Yeah, I think I
I was just gonna
realized,
say,
I ran out
I
of
was
steam
looking at
apparently, and I
my-
didn't give you this, I apologize, I'll get it, it's on the screen right now.
Well, I understand what the need is, Nate, and I'm ready to make sure he gets what he needs to get that going. I don't know where the rest of the part is, but understanding the timeline he needs to even to save money for this expenditure.
Even, it's not something you're ready to vote on whenever, just as long as I know that that I'm safe to go on it. Normally I wouldn't even be kind of presenting it on it, but obviously with the timeline,
Yeah.
it needs to get done before budget's done, so.
But you said, I know you must have provided the information to you on the holsters, the lights and the stuff, but I don't think we ever received it, did we? I don't remember seeing it.
No, we just spoke about it.
It's not new lights though, because the lights are gonna be able to be tread.
I think the lights transferred, it's the red dot, the aim system that's on there, and then that requires a new holster for it. One thing we were able to cut some of the price on that. We've traditionally always gone with what's called a basket weave, so it looks kind of like fake leather, whatever. These will just be black plastic, which was able to give us a couple more options because there's not many people that still manufacture the old school basket weave. So we were able to shop around and get a little better deal on those.
Because I think that, I think where I was confused, when we were talking about before, we mentioned something about that everyone got a new vehicle, everyone got a new weapon. And then, I think there was also mentioned though, that sometimes like the different, like investigators didn't get the same weapon as others.
I think it's a smaller one just because it's easier to carry concealed when they're in their plane.
Okay, just the style, or.
Yeah, it's still a Glock, it still has the same magazines, everything all fit into it. That's one nice thing about Glock, why we stick with them is even if the magazine from a larger gun needs to go in a smaller gun, it will, it just sticks out a little bit at the bottom. So it's very interchangeable, very easy for anyone, God forbid you do need to grab someone else's gun and use it. Just a lot of simplicity that goes with them, so yeah, the holsters are a little different size or style.
Thank you.
Nate, looking at your requests, since we have the big expenditure for the guns this year, is it possible for that copier for civil put off a year? Or is it one that's having problems now?
It's not having problems now. My big issue on that is I have 3 copiers that I rotate through. We go, the jail gets 1 each year, civil gets 1, and the administrative area gets 1. If we don't do 1, then I start having things back, it kind of throws off that 3-year rotation.
Okay.
We actually did percent, because last year I ended up not buying 1 for the jail, and now it's actually, I just told Deanna this morning, actually it's time because they're having all sorts of issues with it. So we actually pushed that rotation back 1 year, last year on that.
Michelle, can you scroll on? Is there anything else on there that maybe, being that's a bigger cost this year, we could look at putting off a year?
Say, the 2 bottom things, I'll be more than happy to push back. That's 25,000 there,
I thought we were funding some of that.
which that actually comes out of, planning to come out of
Right,
commissary.
that's
We've
why
got-
I got it in the grants column, so it's really only the carpet.
put the carpet there for 10. The copier, theoretically could get pushed back, but
I know, if
by
you're,
the time I say that,
yeah,
They've run an amazing number of copies.
It's probably breaking down now since we're talking about it.
yeah, that's what I was
Oh, yeah.
gonna say. I heard that.
Paper jam. No, I agree with Rich as far as getting the guns. I don't blame you for pushing back and wanting to get the extra ones for the SWAT team guys. My personal, for what it's worth, not having value here, but I don't think it's necessary for all of them to have, everybody on the team to have 2 handguns. But I don't wanna short you on getting the things that you guys need, so. Do we need to have that on the agenda for next week? Or can we give the green light unofficially to make the purchase before things become more expensive?
Let's see, it's in 27 budget, it looks. That's just, you want to go ahead to kind
I
of
mean,
get
yeah.
to do it, but I was gonna say it probably should. How
I
would
mean,
you want
whether
it?
it comes out of reserves or whatever, I mean, should've been here last week.
I was.
Well, between the two of you having the discussion,
For hours.
is it better to put it on the next week's agenda?
I think he's saying we
I
have,
think so.
that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to ask.
I think so
I'm
too.
managing a lot of different concerns right now, believe it or not. And yeah, this is not on the agenda for today, so I don't think we can approve it for today.
I'll just say I'm a green light for it when we get to it.
Thank you much.
Thanks, sir.
Sometimes we do have possible board action, today we don't, so it's like, let's say.
Okay.
Well, does everybody want maybe an opportunity to look through this, once we have the full list, Michelle?
Yeah, it would help if you had
All of
this.
them for,
Yes, I'm sorry
and
about
see
that.
if there are any particular things we'd like to look at for moving, you know, or something down
I started
the.
working on a
Or
couple
at
of
least
things.
consideration.
I started working on a couple of things this week, they're already changed, because department heads were already talking to Michelle about what they're cutting, it's like, all right, we'll just stop.
And this is a reminder, as we're thinking through cutting or looking at capital, that any cuts that don't help with the 273 or the 109.
Yeah,
Just, it gets
yeah, not
easy to
just
get
a cut.
confused on it, but it's just a reminder.
Yeah. Yeah, not just that kind of panic and go into a cut,
Yeah.
because and it's not gonna help anything. And Michelle, if you'd send us a list, not of suggestions or what we'd be asking anybody to consider, but what we looked at last year or anything, areas that we should particularly could look at or should be looking at for those two, to reduce those 2 amounts. The types of things.
Yeah, I can just look for, I mean, one of the things we did was.
I mean, and I can look back in last year's budget too.
Well,
but-
some of it was, we did go through the schedule of what increased
Mhm.
for each department, so we did that.
Mhm.
I'm sure we did a lot more last year, 2 years ago, we probably did more of it, but I will look back.
Again.
Right.
Any particular questions?
The
or
other-
or that?
Yeah, The last thing I was gonna mention, and I think it should be in your packet too. Capital items that are not included in that capital program. We have for the property and evidence building, which I haven't heard anything about for quite some time.
Well, I can give you a little update on that, so. Their initial building site fell through for them, or well, the infrastructure was gonna cost entirely too much for them to do it. So now they're looking at probably renovating and doing an addition on an existing city building. We're still kind of working through that. We've still been involved in that process. It looks like the cost of the entire project is gonna come down, which means our portion on it should come down as well. We'll still get into the same lab thing, basically all the same amenities that we're gonna have, but it'll be just right over here. They don't have, I haven't really come with you yet because they don't have a dollar amount. I knew the first question that was gonna be asked was, what's this gonna cost? And so their project, from the city standpoint, looks like it should be coming down in cost. And I've told them we still wanna partner with them, but if the total project is gonna cost less, then our portion should cost less as well. So theoretically, that number will be coming down, but I can't tell you by how much or what or when. And then with the change in mayor and everything else going on over there, there's just kind of a lot of things up in the air right now on it, but sounds like it's still moving forward, just a matter of exactly when and how much, so.
The timeline, we don't have any kind of.
I really don't have much. They went through about 3 or 4 different scenarios and just 2 weeks ago kind of honed in on Salvation Army building over here. So, yeah, I'm not sure where the next steps are on it, but still work in progress, but yeah, I'll be coming back to revise or a new contract, whatever, but again, it should be for less money, but for now, that's still a good placeholder, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. It's going in the right direction, at least product cost wise. Go down.
Unheard of.
Have a facility in that we don't know.
Yeah, so other things I wanted them to stay in your minds. The attorney's office, we don't seem to settle on what we're doing there, we don't know the cost, but that's still out there.
Yeah.
The roads building, the public safety radio system, I'm still waiting for some information, but when they talked about a $20 million project, that was annual lease payments for 10 years, which includes kind of an interest factor. The radios themselves, the current guesstimate, I'm gonna call it a guesstimate, is at 4.8. And we could go ahead and do that in fiscal 27. I think the current debt service levy would support that. However, they have infrastructure also, and he's supposed to be working on some information for that I don't have yet to try to figure out where we have to go with that, because I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else, but these are the things that.
Is that part of the March 4th
Yes.
presentation that all this is coming together?
Well, I hope so. I don't really know what they're planning to present, but
Well, I'm
Justin
supposed to
was.
meet with Judy today, this afternoon, and then we'll follow up
that
on
would
that
be
and
good
see
to
if
ask
that's
her.
kind of where we're at and that they're coming and where that.
I think it'd be helpful to understand like what the infrastructure stays
Yeah,
and what gets replaced, and because it's,
yeah, this was kind of the first we learned about with Nate, I think, and Justin kind of bringing it to our attention, so it was kind of like,
Yeah.
there is all those questions too.
I was messing around this, asking AI, like, what does it take to build this infrastructure and what stays and stuff, so just trying to get a better understanding of,
Yeah.
because it's a huge investment that was made,
Very.
so, I mean, it's a $20 million budget, sounds like a complete overhaul, but.
Yeah,
which
that's more than it was, I mean, I know times have changed, but it was just, that's more than it was all new.
So I think it's 5.5 million of that is maintenance. So that's an operating item, needs to stay in the operating budget. It's really not part of the capital program in my opinion. They would probably prefer that you just, sign the agreement that it's all operating, but I don't think that works very well in Iowa's taxing structure, so that's why I started asking for different information so that I could break it down and see what we can do.
So two things I don't see on there yet is the talk we've had about moving IT to the corner on the side of the
It's
building.
already, those funds are already set aside.
They're set aside, okay.
As well as board office, we said.
Board office
I think
change.
yesterday too, those are set aside too. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Those were the only ones that we really had put in the budget or built in. Yeah, Brian's obviously kind of some moving parts on that right now, but still working on it, I guess.
Trying.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to cover today, other than you get, do you think, realistic timeline for us to receive that information that we're asking for you today? I think just so we have it in our hands for a while to.
Might send it out in smaller
Bits
batches,
and pieces.
maybe I'll get some, you know.
But I just meant to help, so we aren't all,
Yeah.
asking the
Yep.
same questions next week.
Yep, I will try to get.
Or any other questions, I guess, if anyone thinks of too, to
Yeah.
get to Michelle to
Right.
help us all. Thank you. Anything else more? Any questions for Michelle or budget or staff or anything that, today?
No, all good.
Super. No decisions made today, but hopeful for next week.
Right, still in information gathering mode.
Anything else? Yeah, I was gonna say, any other questions you have, Michelle?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
So hopefully I may have to reach out to you if I decide I can't remember what I was supposed to do.
Well,
But I
you've
tried
got that
to.
list probably, yeah, of things that we want to be sure to see too, so. Okay. Well, item 11 says, any reports or information from the board?
Two things here. Next Tuesday, we got the property valuations presentation, Barton Library, Tuesday 24th, 6 to 7:30. And then I started my rounds attending the township meetings again this past week. I got the opportunity to meet with the Benton County Township folks. I gotta admit, Dawn makes some of the greatest cinnamon rolls, and that's a lot of reason why the guys show up. It's interesting, and you learn about the townships, they do have 3 non-owned cemeteries that are helping with that. And then they deal with 3 separate fire departments with their neighborhood in that township, so, just interesting and visiting with those folks and what they go through and, representing the people in their county.
Also, Lori reminded everybody, I think, of the March 9th Farm Bureau, for those that work in lieu or wanted to attend. She'll be responding to them, that was March 9th.
What was that again?
Farm Bureau.
Okay.
That, their standard kind of yearly meeting. And, we're gonna postpone, I think we all talked about postponing the work session for Washburn until at least March, the first week or second week, just to add that, because we had so much going on that last week of.
And I was asked about that last week, people in Washburn.
Well, yeah, we just kind of that 26th or whatever, that week just started to fill up and we didn't think that was gonna be doable for us, so yeah, we'll just see that they get it out. So, Raycon meeting March 4th, I'll confirm that with Judy today and get that out to everyone, that was for 1:30 is what we'd all kind of agreed on. Tavis, I know had mentioned that might be a conflict for him, but he needed to get notice out for all the mayors to be able to hear what this report's gonna be, so sooner we can get that. And I think that's it for me for today.
We just recently had a NERD meeting, the North Iowa Hazmat Response Group, and we approved the budget for publication. I'll send that around to everybody, but there's no real big changes, but the budget will be approved at the March meeting.
Anything, Tavis?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Okay, motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.